So I'm Harley. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I tell you this because I really need therapy, but this is my way to vent. So here we are. Um, and I change out of my other pajamas to be here today, and some of you may not know what that means, but basically when you're a mom, you're kind of always in pajamas, so it's like you go to bed, you put on like the comfortable t-shirt and like the soft shorts, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed now, and then you wake up and you pretty much put on the exact same thing but a different version, just to feel like, I really tried today. I put on the new yoga pants and a different tank top, so I got ready for the day. And that's a lot. That's a lot for a mom. So just be grateful I got out of my other pajamas today. I like to say that my life is kind of like a TV show or a movie. Like, I don't know if you guys think, my life's kind of like a movie or a TV show. I'd like to say my life is kind of like that TV show, The Walking Dead. Because I wake up out of bed and I'm still like, like half feeding my baby, like still asleep, like, okay, I gotta do this now. And I like try not to drink coffee, but it's hard because my partner's like, in the morning, like, oh, I got this cold brew, I got this coffee, and I'm like, I can't do it. If I do it, I'm gonna end up getting addicted, and I know I'm gonna wake up and be like, I need coffee every single day. So I just can't do it. Basically, I co-sleep with my son. Well, I don't really anymore, but when I made this joke, I did. So co-sleeping, a lot of people will tell you, is really bad and kind of like scary because, you're sleeping next to your baby and people are worried you're gonna roll over or whatever. I know I have a reason for saying that. Basically, the reason that I co-sleep is actually partially because I love my baby and I want to be close to him, but it's also partially because I'm just kind of lazy, and if I have to get up in the middle of the night and nurse him, I'm not going to get all the way up, go into a whole nother room, go pick him up out of whatever he's sleeping in and bring him all the way in my room to nurse him, or in his room and nurse him and then put him back and then go all the way back to sleep. This way I can just roll over, give him the boob, go back to sleep, and then he wakes up, I roll over, I give him a boob, go back to sleep. So essentially, co-sleeping, it's not for everybody, but if you want to be able to get any sleep as a mother, then you got to co-sleep. So that's my bit on co-sleeping. Speaking of not having time to sleep, you really don't have time for a lot of things as a mother. Yes, a lot of my jokes are going to be about motherhood, so sorry guys, it's what I got to work with. Gotta work with what I have. So basically, when you don't have a lot of time to sleep, you don't really have time for a lot of things, and one of those things I don't really have time for is going to the bathroom, which I know sounds crazy, but I've realized that I started getting constipated because I just forget to go to the bathroom. I'm like trying to take care of my newborn, trying to take care of my toddler, and I get the oh, I gotta poop right now, and then I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do it because I gotta have to, I'll do it later, and I just keep putting it off, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, I forgot to poop, and then the sensation is gone, right? So you're like, oh great, what am I gonna do? So that's when the coffee comes back, and I'm like, should I drink a coffee? Maybe, I don't know. And then no, let me go the more natural route. Let me just drink some magnesium, because that's the more holistic way to do things, right? So I'm like, I'll just do some magnesium. Maybe I'll do a dose too much, drink some magnesium. So I drink the magnesium. And then I forget that I drink the magnesium because I'm doing 800 other things, like feeding the baby, changing both the children because they're both still in diapers, and running around like crazy and trying to clean things and get them to both go down for naps. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of doing all of these things, and now I gotta poop. So this is really, really inconvenient because this is not oh, I have to poop. This is I'm gonna go poop my pants right now if I don't go to the bathroom. So now I'm sprinting for the bathroom. The baby's sitting on the changing table crying. And my toddler, I'm trying to lure him into the bathroom with my phone. You want my phone? Come on, let's go. And he's like, okay, yeah, you never give me your phone. I'm really excited about this. And I'm like, let me just stay. Just come on, let's go. And luckily I made it. This time at least. So, as a mom, well, I had kind of a rough childhood, and my parents weren't really around as much as I would have liked them to be. And so I've always kind of wanted to be a mom. And so basically, I now get to be the mom that I always wanted to be, which is, just having those beautiful moments with my children and really being able to spend the time with them and, like, watch them play with things and, like, watch them learn how to do things. And that's really beautiful and exciting. But I will say, about a quarter of the time when I'm watching them do these things, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's such a precious moment. And then the other part of the time, I'm like, I'm so fucking tired. I don't want to watch you put this thing on top of the thing again. I am so tired. I just want to go take a nap. I want to go take a nap. And I'll just sit in my son's chair in his room, and he'll just be be throwing books at me. Because I'm just like half asleep. I'm like sitting there. And he's like, book, book, book. Well, he says boof. So he's like, boof, boof, boof. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'll read him like one book, and then I'll like put a toy in front of him. Here you go. Let's play with this instead. Because it's something he can play with by himself. And then he's like, boof, boof, boof. And I'm like, fine. And then I read him the book. But. So, I recently, about 7.5 weeks ago, I just had my second child. And people, it's like the normal thing to say congratulations to people when you're like pregnant or you have a baby. And like everywhere you go, everybody's like, oh, congratulations, congratulations. And you're like, oh my gosh, thank you, thank you. But I'm thinking that we should change the norm of saying congratulations to people. Because, to be honest, we should be saying, I'm sorry for your loss. Like, I'm sorry for your loss of spatial autonomy. I'm sorry for your loss of sleep, which is going to be probably for the next couple of years, if you have the strength and the will to sleep train them when they're bawling their eyes out for hours. But yeah, let's change that to I'm sorry for your loss. Now when my friends tell me like, oh, I just had a baby, like you think like, oh my gosh, congratulations, but I'm like, are you okay? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The newborn phase is hard. We'll all get through it. We'll just claw our way through it. It'll be okay. Basically, I think pregnancy should come with a warning label instead. Do not pursue this unless you've meditated with monks for 48 hours without having a single thought, because I will tell you, you need the patience. You need it. And I would like to believe that I have it, but then I don't. I used to be a really good mom. I used to, when my child would cry in the car, I would turn on the white noise really, really loud, which, I don't know if you guys know what white noise is, but it's basically like shh. It sounds like what I've heard my relatives call a jet plane taking off. So basically it's like a really loud like shh. So when my baby used to cry, when I had my first son, he would cry in the car and I'd be like, oh my gosh, put on the white noise, he needs to go to sleep, he's so tired, help him. And now, because I know that he'll be fine, and also I'm on my second baby, which I think is a little different. Yep. I'm just like, turn the audiobook up, I can't hear it. Yeah. Put on something I want to listen to so I can calm my mind, because he's crying and I'm really about to go nuts right now. I really don't want to run this car off the bridge, but if I have to, I will.
Amen.
I used to be a good mom. I used to see other moms with their kids at dinners and be like, oh, can you believe he has the laptop? Can you believe he is playing with an iPad? That is family time. I don't care if he's 2 years old. Yeah. So, I used to be a good mom until I went to Hawaii, which, woohoo! Props to my partner for bringing us to Hawaii. It was amazing. But my son got a really bad fever the night before we left on the plane in the morning to go to Hawaii. And he basically was just like the worst version of himself the entire way, like at the airport when we were on the plane. And I was like, just put on cartoons. I don't care if it's gonna damage his brain. I need it. And I think we either forgot to get him snacks or he went through all of his snacks. At this point, I don't remember. But they had those like disgusting Chex Mix that I think that they can only push people on planes, because who would buy that? And he was just going nuts. And this is before we gave him literally any processed food. We usually fed him like a vegan diet, like very strict, very only raw whole foods. You know, that was kind of where we were at the time. And I was like, give him the Chex Mix. I don't care anymore. So yeah, he was watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and eating Chex Mix. And it felt great, you know, it felt great. So I used to be a good mom, R.I.P. me. I now have a lot of compassion for those other moms. When I was a good mom, I would bring my son home when it was his nap time, and I would make sure I was there before he got tired, so I didn't have to worry about transferring him. And if you know how to about transferring a child when they're needing their nap, it's like sometimes they'll nap for 5 minutes, and then they'll be like, all right, I'm good for the rest of the day. And you're like, no, you're not. So, my son would try to fall asleep in the car when we'd be driving along. He'd be all relaxed and be like starting to doze off. And I would reach into the back and grab the overhead light and blink it on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. In the middle of the night, because I'm like, you are not going to bed right now. You will stay awake. It's a strobe party. Let's do it. On and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. But it was worth it, you know, because he didn't fall asleep. So, you gotta do what you gotta do as a parent. I mean, that's all I gotta say about that. So, when your child doesn't go to sleep, or when your child needs to sleep, it kind of becomes this like wager. I like to say, my partner and I are always like, are you gonna do it? And they'll be like, no, are you gonna do it? And they'll be like, well, I'll give you a massage if you do it. They'll be like, well, I'll make dinner if you do it. Because we used to have to like put him in the wrap and bounce him around for like an hour, literally an hour, till he fell asleep. And so we just started making wagers like on everything. It'd be like, are you gonna feed him? Well, if you feed him, then I get to do this. Or if I feed him, then you have to do that. Or like, same with poopy diapers. Now it's like, all right, who's doing it? And then it's like, we gotta come up with some kind of, there's gotta be a reward at the end. Because we're both just like, how can we get the other person to do what we don't want to do? Because, you know, having a baby is like, it's pretty tough on a relationship. You're already not getting sleep. So then those petty, like, marriage fights you get in, like, oh, like, we like the house different temperatures, or you like to keep the room here and I like to keep the room there. Those become so aggressive because neither of you are getting sleep that it's like, how dare you turn it to 73 instead of 71? And then you're like basically killing each other because, you know, it's just the small things are just like, normally they'd annoy you and you guys would be like, I don't really like that, but they just become really, really aggressive. Yeah, it's tough on a relationship. I think it's especially tough when your partner criticizes you and you're like already doing 100 other things. You're like in the middle of changing the diaper or doing something else, and then they're like, you know that there's beans on the floor over there, right? And you just like look over and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to feed the baby, change the diaper, and get the diaper bag ready and all the snacks ready to get in the car with them. But no, I didn't notice the beans there, it's fine. I'm just gonna leave them there for the rest of the day because I never clean things up anyway. It's good times, guys. Have a baby, they said, it'll be fun. Speaking of fun times with babies, I was in the bath with my newborn because he doesn't really like to go in his baby bath. They have like this little newborn insert and you're supposed to like sit in it like a little hammock because they can't hold up their head yet. And it's all cute and you're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna put him in the cute little bath. And my first son like totally loved it. So I'm like, my second son's gonna love it too. No, he hated it. So I decided, you know, I'll just get in the bath and let him sit in the bath with me. And you know, the first couple times it like went really great and he was so happy and I put the little washcloth over his chest and he was just like, ah. And the third time, I'm sitting there with him and he's all, ah. And all of a sudden I look down and the whole tub is just yellow because he had just been shitting his brains out. So then at that point, I'm like, I gotta make a choice because the baby gets so cold when I take him out of the water. And I'm naked too, so I'm just like sitting there with the baby. He pooped. I'm like, okay, I'm probably like getting this all over me right now. What do I do? Because I don't want to get him more dirty by like washing him off with it. But I don't want to put cold water on him because the faucet doesn't just go hot as soon as you turn it on. So I'm like sitting there, and then all of a sudden he starts getting upset because I think he can tell that I'm getting frantic. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, and then I'm like, and he's like, and I'm like, and then we're just kind of going back and forth there. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do because like, I need you to be clean, but I don't know. So then I start draining the bath because I'm like, okay, this is like my only choice at this point. Like, I gotta drain the bath. It's all dirty. And then I turn on the water and it's like kind of cold, but it's starting to get warm. I'm like, okay, perfect. So the water's all literally like, there's probably a cup of water left. And so it's about to drain out. So I turn on the new water, and now the water is like getting clean. It's about an inch up. And I look down, and it's yellow again. And so I'm like, okay, great. You just pooped again. So I start draining the water again. It's all going down the drain. And then I turn the water back on, and then he does it again. And I'm like, okay, at this point, I just gotta get him out of the bath. So then I'm like rinsing him underneath the faucet, and he's like getting super pissed because I'm like holding him in this weird way under the faucet while also trying to like get myself rinsed off because we both have to get out. And then I take him out of the bath, and I don't have the towel ready because I'm like frantic. And then I finally get the towel around him, and he's just like super mad at me, and I'm just like, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best here. So yeah, that's my get a newborn. It'll be fun story. I love that I give my heart, soul, blood, and tears to my kids. And at the end of the day, my beautiful reward for that is Dada! 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 My son's first word, Dada! His whole life, since he opened his eyes, I was like, Mama, 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 Mama. His first word, Dada! And even now, his dad comes over, Dad, Dad. He's like, who are you? I don't need you. I don't need you. I have you all the time. I don't care about you. Like, first of all, I'm the reason you're alive. But it's fine. It's fine. It's just how it goes. Let's see. So, how many people out here know a narcissist? Anybody? Okay. So, I'd like to believe that I'm the reason that there's going to be less narcissists in the world. Because when my son comes around, when we're having dinner, and he sees me eating my tortilla from my Chipotle kids meal, and he's like, Mama, I'm like, no. Because guess what? They can't just have whatever they want all the time. I'm teaching him to be a better human. And you're all welcome for that. So when I come around with my salt and vinegar chips, and I only have a very small bag, and he's like, Mama, I'm like, no. These are mine. These are mine. And it's all for his good. It has nothing to do with selfishness, I just like to say.
Yes.
I think I taught my son sign language too young. Because now, instead of answering me, he just uses his whole body to tell me what he does and doesn't want. I'll bring him food or snacks, or maybe I'm offering him a different pair of clothes, whatever it might be. And he'll be like, oh, here, sweetheart, do you want this? No. With the whole body, just, no. But he doesn't even say no, he just throws his body. Like, oh, okay, I guess you don't want that. How dare I offer it? Sorry. And he's at the time where he's about to start too, so he kind of knows how to use words. He knows how to say, like, yes and no and please, but he only says please like this, because this is sign language for please. It might be this way. Don't quote me on that. But these words that I taught him in sign language, he like refuses to say. He'll say other words, but it's like when it comes to something that's a sign that I taught him, he's like, no. I'm just gonna do the sign, and there's nothing you can do about it. All right. I know I appear like a normal person, and you would think, she's just a normal girl in a normal world, living her life. If you saw me just on the street or at the steep station doing my little comedy bit. But if you saw my car, you would know that I have 2 children. And I would really like to say that I try to keep it clean. I really do. I swear I take like a load of things out every single day, but somehow there's always 8 million things in my car. There's like the toy and the bib and the dirty diaper that I just like had to throw in there and like didn't get to a garbage. It's like there's always something in there. I don't know. You don't want to see my car. That's all I gotta say. It's not that bad, but it's like, it's not a normal person's car that doesn't have 2 children driving them nuts. So, basically, I'm a breastfeeding mom, and basically any issue my first son had, I would just immediately put him on the boob. Which, I mean, for most things it is what you're supposed to do. Like, if they're crying, like, if they're tired, you feed them, they go down. If they're hungry, you feed them, they get full. And that's kind of all they do as a baby is, like, they get hungry or they get tired. But I think that maybe there were times when I put him on the boob just because it was the easiest thing to make him stop crying. And then when I stopped breastfeeding and he would get upset, I'd be like, what do I do now? I'd just be like, I don't know. I don't know. I had very fat babies. I had very fat babies because they just eat 24/7. It took my son a really long time to walk my first son because he just was so chubby. And I remember when I was at the pediatrician and I kept saying, like, do I need to get him into PT or something? Because he's not walking yet and I feel like he's almost a year old now. Like, should I be concerned? And they're like, so the thing about larger children, like, they didn't want to say he's fat. They're like, bigger babies that are higher on the percentile or whatever they call it. Essentially, they didn't want to tell me my baby was fat. And I looked at the nurse because she's like really like just trying to like tiptoe her way around it. And I was like, so you mean fat babies? He's fat. It's okay. It's okay. He's fat. And I love my chubby baby. It's fine. Well, it's pretty much all the material I've got, so I'm just gonna leave you with this. We got to give a hand to these children because they certainly offer a lot of things in their hand to me, to us, like their poop or their half-eaten tofu or whatever it is they find on the floor, the small grain of rice or the bean that's been sitting there for like two years. So that's all I have. Thank you.